What's up YouTube, it's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I'm back with another video. Now for those out there who are unaware, the NBA has actually moved their trade deadline before the All-Star break, so the date that many of you all need to know and be aware of is February 8th, which is less than a month away. Because of this, I decided to make a video breaking down the 10 players that I believe need to be traded. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and as always, leave a comment in the comment section below. But this is definitely going to be one of my longer videos, so let's just get right into it. Coming in at number 10, we have Kemba Walker. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about Kemba Walker and the Charlotte Hornets because I've done an entire video on it, annotation in the top right hand corner. However, Kemba Walker, star point guard for the Charlotte Hornets, and his contract is due to expire after next season, which definitely puts the organization and Kemba Walker in a very interesting situation. It's very obvious that the organization has failed numerous times to put a roster around Kemba Walker that is competent enough to be a staple in the postseason in the Eastern Conference. And this year really is no different. The tradition continues to carry itself on, and the legacy of Kemba Walker is starting to dwindle down with the Charlotte Hornets, as they are more likely will miss the playoffs for another season. As it continues to be a consistent theme with the organization, I do believe it's very obvious that they must move on from Kemba Walker, as he has peaked as an individual, and again his contract is set to expire after next season. In my opinion, they should trade him to the Denver Nuggets, as the Nuggets are in desperate need of a star point guard, and they also have the young talents to trade off to the Charlotte Hornets in return. Coming in at number 9, we have Julius Randle. Julius Randle, power forward for the Los Angeles Lakers, has voiced his frustrations with the organization as his role has consistently reduced over the past several months. Now, as a Laker fan, I have definitely witnessed this firsthand, and I'm not going to lie, Julius Randle went from being a starter last year, and now we're at a point where he's a 6th or 7th man off the bench. And a lot of this has to do with the simple fact that they have drafted other forwards such as Larry Nance and Kyle Kuzma, who seem to be better fits for the organization, and Julius Randle just doesn't seem like he's going to progress in the right direction for the team as a whole. Because of this, it makes sense for the organization to separate their ties with Julius Randle, especially since this year he is on an expiring contract and he will go into the offseason as a restricted free agent. And there's no rhyme or reason why the Los Angeles Lakers need to get into a bidding war with a player that quite honestly just doesn't fit with the team moving forward. If there are a few teams out there that I personally feel like have the best option to go after Julius Randle, the Dallas Mavericks and the Chicago Bulls are probably the two best options, as the Chicago Bulls are trying to move Mirotic and the Dallas Mavericks are trying to move Nerlens Noel to expiring contracts. So those are my thoughts, and hopefully everything works out with Julius Randle because he definitely still has a lot of potential, especially with his rebounding abilities. Moving on to the next player, and we're going to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers, and that is Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson, yet again another player coming off the bench whose role and minutes are starting to diminish simply because other players have been drafted to the team, and they definitely seem as if they have more potential than Jordan Clarkson, especially because he is an older player. However, Clarkson, in my opinion, he's been great coming off the bench so far for the Lakers throughout his career. He's instant offense, giving you somewhere around 12 to 15 points on pretty good shooting splits. But honestly, the greatest part about Jordan Clarkson is his contract situation. If you are a team that is in the market for receiving some young talent, possibly some young talent coming off your bench, Jordan Clarkson is your guy, and you don't even have to worry about signing him to a contract anytime soon. In my opinion, I think the biggest reason why the Lakers are willing to trade Clarkson, despite the fact that he is very valuable to the team, is simply because they want to use his value and his youth to leverage a deal to get rid of Luol Deng. For those out there who have forgotten, Luol Deng is still playing for the Lakers, despite the fact that he's only played like 7 or 10 minutes, and he's making a ridiculous amount of money, and obviously the Lakers want to free up some cap moving forward, as they are in the business of signing a huge free agent in this next summer. And in my opinion, when it comes to Clarkson, I think the best fit for him is possibly the Memphis Grizzlies, as they definitely need to get a little bit more younger and have some youth on their bench. Moving on to the next player, we have Nikola Mirotic, forward for the Bulls, who's been spacing the floor really well so far this season. came back from injury. I think a lot of people were trying to figure out what's going to happen with the organization, especially since Mirotic plays very similar to Lauri Markkanen, and the minutes definitely weren't going to work out. But I will say this, Mirotic has definitely weathered the storm, and he's played phenomenal so far, especially within the limited minutes that he's received. Shooting splits are remarkable. He's definitely still producing when it comes to his points per game. But despite his productivity, it still doesn't seem like it's going to be the best fit for the Chicago Bulls, because even though, yes, the spacing is on a whole nother level with him and Markkanen on the floor, the redundancy of them being a liability defensively and not being that active on the boards is hurting them more than their spacing is helping them on the offensive end. Because of this, along with his contract situation, I do believe that the organization is going to move in a different direction, especially because they want to find a better fit for Lauri Markkanen, especially inside grabbing rebounds. The most consistent rumor that I've heard around Nikola Mirotic is trading him to the Utah Jazz and in return receiving Derrick Favors, which in my opinion will be a great fit for both teams. And speaking of Derrick Favors, it's actually moving us to the next player, which is Derrick Favors. Again, another forward that's playing for a team that is trying to revamp and adjust their organization with the Utah Jazz. Derrick Favors just quite honestly just does not fit with the Utah Jazz, as Rudy Gobert is going to come back in the lineup. Having two players in the front court who do not space the floor whatsoever doesn't really make any sense for the team moving forward. However, I will say this about Derrick Favors. It's going to be very interesting to see what team is willing to bite on him, simply because the NBA has changed so much over the past 2 to 3 years. Moving to our next player, we have Tyreke Evans with the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Tyreke has had his ups and downs throughout his entire career, but this year he's having one of his best seasons, if not his best season throughout his entire career, outside of his rookie year, obviously. Tyreke Evans is having a great season coming off the bench or even as a starter. His shooting splits have increased significantly, especially his efficiency from behind the arc, and having a player who can create for himself and create for others is always a great option coming off the bench. And also good news for any organization that is looking for a player that fits this role. Tyreke Evans, because of his lack of efficiency and because of his inability to stay on the floor over the past several seasons, Tyreke Evans is on a bargain contract with the Memphis Grizzlies. He's only on a $3.3 million contract this season, and this is the last year of his contract. So if you are a team that's looking to dump off a pretty big contract while also picking up a quality bench player in Tyreke Evans, you definitely need to hit up Memphis immediately, especially teams such as the Detroit Pistons, the Washington Wizards, and possibly even the Thunder. Moving on to number 4, we have Tristan Thompson, which is definitely one of the names that many people have consistently brought up when it comes to the trade rumors. Tristan Thompson, power forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers, a young player who has definitely found some problems progressing in the NBA, especially due to his limitations on the offensive end. However, his tenacity on the boards definitely is felt from any team who decides to acquire him, and also that tenacity definitely carries on the defensive end and hopefully ramping up his defensive intensity if he is on another team. The problem is that Tristan Thompson is making way too much money for a player that basically is one-dimensional. Paying Tristan Thompson over $15 million at any point of his career is definitely a hard pill to swallow, but it may be a little bit easier to take on that burden financially if the Cleveland Cavaliers are willing to let up off that Brooklyn Nets pick, which doesn't have as much value as I think a lot of people assumed in the beginning of the season, but still is set to be a top 10 pick in this next upcoming lottery. Coming in at number 3, we have Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas, up-and-coming big man for the Toronto Raptors. However, his progression hasn't happened thoroughly enough for where they are right now when it comes to the organization, because the Toronto Raptors are definitely in position to take that next step in the postseason, but Valanciunas is still developing and growing as an individual player, and the progress from him isn't felt enough with his team. Because of this, there are rumors claiming that the organization is willing to move forward without Valanciunas and chase after a much more elite level big man such as DeAndre Jordan or possibly even Hassan Whiteside. My personal opinion, I like Valanciunas. They just need to get him a little bit more involved in the offense. But if you are a team that's looking for an upcoming big man who's definitely active on the boards and shows some promise offensively, I think Valanciunas is your guy. Also, when it comes to his contract, you don't have to worry about signing him anytime soon, as he's still under contract moving forward. But I will say this, the downside defensively, Valanciunas definitely can be a little bit better, and I think that's probably the biggest reason why the Toronto Raptors want to move on without him. Coming in at number 2, we have DeAndre Jordan, one of the better big men in today's NBA, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear that because of his inability to create his own shot. However, in today's league, you really don't need that many big men to have a post presence. DeAndre Jordan is very athletic. He can jump out the gym. Defensively, he is amazing, and also he, along with a few other players, are kind of battling it out back and forth on who's going to lead the NBA in rebounding. So when it comes to the complete package of big men, outside of shooting threes, DeAndre Jordan does a little bit of it all. Because of this, DeAndre Jordan is definitely one of the high values when it comes to the trading market, but unfortunately it doesn't necessarily seem he's going to go off the market that easily. For one, the Clippers are much deeper in the playoffs than I think a lot of people anticipated. Because of this, they probably will expect a little bit more in return for a player of DJ's caliber. And because of this, I definitely believe it's going to turn off a lot of people. But also, DeAndre Jordan at the end of the season potentially will be a free agent. And because of this, along with the idea that he wants to play in Texas, which is obviously his home state, I think a lot of people are really starting to be turned off with the idea of going after DeAndre Jordan, because even if you trade away any pieces to go get him, who knows what's going to happen in the offseason. And finally, our number 1 player is DeMarcus Cousins. Now, I will say this, as of late, DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis have been on fire in the NBA, especially Anthony Davis, as he's put up back-to-back 40-plus games. However, it's still very interesting to see this team struggle this deep into the regular season. And because DeMarcus Cousins is on expiring contracts, and because the New Orleans Pelicans gave up so much to receive DeMarcus Cousins, it will be interesting to see what's going to happen as time continues to progress. Because if this team is only the 8th, 7th, or even the 6th seed, is it even worth it moving forward, especially if they're more than likely going to get bounced out in the first round? Because if that is the only thing that we are anticipating from a DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis combo, then the Pelicans may need to look in a different direction. But those are my thoughts. Please let me know what you think about the video in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.